enlisted in the Army in 1964 for a 3-year enlistment. And at that time, there was the option of picking a place you wanted to go, and there were 3 options. Alaska, the Far East, and I forgot what the third one was, but it was...
It wasn't one you picked?
Or Europe, or Germany, and I picked Germany, figuring that no matter what I did in the military, if it was in Germany, it would be okay.
Okay.
And fortunately, it turned out that way. But this was in '64, so it was pre-Vietnam. It's considered part of the Vietnam era, but it was pre-Vietnam. And I was trained as a communications center specialist cryptographer.
Oh, interesting.
At Fort Gordon, Georgia, and was sent to a military intelligence group in Frankfurt, headquarters in the Frankfurt area, in a suburb, and new things.
And so what sort of things did you have to do? Like, what does a cryptographer do?
Well, in this case, you've seen teletype machines with the little random punch, the little holes punched for each letter. Well, this is no secret any longer, but we just simply had a similar tape with random punches in it to overlay. So what went out looked just exactly like garbage, you know.
Oh, amazing.
And then at the other end, they had the other copy of this tape, only 2 exist. And they would strip it off, and so then the message would get through, but it had been particularly protected during the time. And they were just experimenting with microwave communications. So there were towers and stuff around for that, but they depended on these landlines for a lot of stuff. This group had branch offices all over Europe, and we would be communicating messages back and forth.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Was that how a lot of the communication was done, with those sort of grids that go over it, or
Yes.
it was.
Much of it was.
Yeah.
But I was also trained to do message pads, where there were
What's that?
Well, groups of letters that would substitute for other letters.
Oh.
And that was all top secret stuff, or highly secret stuff, and had to be accounted for every day. Had to count, make sure, it's like you have your checkbook sitting at home, somebody breaks into your house. They don't steal the whole checkbook, they steal 3 of the checks from within the thing. So you have to be very careful that every single sheet is there, on these pads and pads of these things. Stuff. I'll tell you how classified it was, that when we built up the trash, for leftovers and stuff like that, it had to be accompanied with a gun to take it down to the incinerator and burn it. So.
Wow, sounds pretty fascinating.
It was stuff like that. But I worked with a group of 70, what we would call spies. These were people who would go to the neutral country for trade shows, that being Austria, and they would meet sources from the other side there and collect the data. Now, today, of course, it's all done by satellite, but in those days, typically how it would work would be some housewife who lives across the street from a military post would count the number of trucks in or out of the post every day, and she knew that when she went to the butcher, if she told the butcher that number, she'd get an extra half pound of meat. The butcher knew that if he collected all those things people were telling him and passed them on to his wholesaler, he'd get a half a cow, that sort of thing, all the way up. So it was kind of interesting in the little group that I worked with. We had a whole room full of things that you would exchange as a gift or in a bribe, or however you want to look at it. But I mean, the whole thing, currencies from all over, furs, jewelry, perfume, cigarettes, just about anything you could want.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah, so I'm probably go to prison for the last 20 years of my life for telling you this, but in any case, they had just about at least some of everything there to be able to reward these people who were bringing the information.
Did you ever worry?
I had three names. That's my original name, of course, and then there was the name for anything came across teletype would be a different name, and anything that came on the telephone would be a different name. And that was Mr. Snow on the telephone. And a phone call came on the unclassified line, came for me one day in Frankfurt, asking for me, you know, and my real name should never have been mentioned on that phone. Nobody should know that I'm even there. So they got pretty excited about that. Everybody crowded around the phone to see what it was. And this guy was fairly cryptic. He said he'd like to meet with me for about a half hour or so. And is there a place nearby where we could go? So we made an appointment to go to the nearest beer bar, you know, at 6 o'clock or something like that. And when I got there, our place was full of our people reading the paper, you know, being very suspicious and all this sort of stuff. And the guy went into a pinch, and it turned out it wasn't the other side trying to recruit me. It was somebody who sold great books of the Western world. And I had sent in an Encyclopedia Britannica card that said I was interested in great books of the Western world. And all he had was an APO number, which is like a zip code is here. And he went to some clerk in the APO system, in the mail system, and bribed him to look in the classified only directory to get that phone number.
Did he make the sale?
No, he didn't. And I still haven't read them.
Oh, good gracious.
Yeah.
All right, so in terms of timing, I was drafted for Snelling the fall of 1943, and that was it. I mean, you know, you go into the service at 18, and what do you know? You had no idea what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And at that period, you know, growing up in the 1930s, we were terribly naive, terribly innocent. There was no television to sort of mature us in a hurry.
Yeah. One of the things.
In terms of actual war experience, one is seeing some bullets coming in your direction, sniping in Manila. One gets very nervous.
Yeah.
And one wishes one wasn't there.
Yeah,
That's
has
it.
their head down.
Yeah.
Through
What about
your greatest life lessons learned through that experience?
be thankful that you survived? That's it.
Did it change you?
Well, you sort of grew up a little bit, and you certainly aren't naive anymore. That's about it.
And do you have children? And what happened from there then? So then you were going to get drafted.
And I got drafted, and then there, you know, down in Kansas, that's where I took the German test when I got inducted, and that separated me out from everybody else. Everybody went for basic training to Fort Leonard Wood, and there were about 6 of us that had special training in one kind or another. One guy was a chemist, and the rest of I don't know. We all got sent to have basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Okay.
And I don't know why they did that. They trained me as a tank gunner, you know, for 16 weeks.
Oh, interesting.
But then when they sent me out, they sent me to Europe and gave me an MOS as a linguist. School and all that sort of thing.
And so what was what did it feel like to you as a child growing up during that era?
Well, I can remember when the Germans invaded Poland. I remember how I found out.
Oh, how?
And it was 1939, the summer, when I was only 7 years old. And down near our home at 48th in Chicago, they had a hamburger shop called Bud's Hamburger Shop. And my dad was down there, and he was taking me for a hamburger, and they were announcing it over the radio. The guy had it on the radio, and that's how I found out about it. And then right. Well, what could I share with people today? Well, the main thing I could share with them is that we have a wonderful country. You know, there isn't a country, with all the problems that we have and all the complaints going on in Congress, and they can't agree, we still have the freedom. We elect these guys, you know, and we can speak out against them or for them, and we don't get thrown in prison for that. And for that alone, to me, it's worthy. We have to have military